Welcome to Season 7 of Open Forum in the Villages, Florida. In this show, we talk to leaders of clubs and interesting folks who live in and around the villages. We also talk to people who have information vital to seniors. You will get perspectives of what is happening in the Villages, Florida area. We are a listener-supported podcast. There will be shout-outs for supporters.
This is Mike Roth on Open Forum in the Villages, Florida. I'm here today with Jimmy Zolla. Thanks for joining me, Jimmy. Jimmy is a co-founder and CEO of Joe and Bella, a brand creating modern, stylish, adaptive apparel for seniors, for those living with disabilities. Now, I thought that would be a great idea to bring you on the show. We have a community of seniors here in the villages, and some people apparel that is easy to take off. So, Jimmy, what ever made you get involved in the apparel industry?
This is a space I never expected to be involved in. I was running a different startup during the pandemic, but I was also helping to care for my grandmother in a memory care community, and she was a wheelchair user. The only way to effectively communicate with her was by FaceTiming one of the nurses at the community, hoping she would answer and be able to run into my grandmother's room. The interesting thing about this experience was it gave us a lens into her life that we otherwise would not have seen. One day I FaceTimed a nurse, picked up, she ran to my grandmother's room, and I got to see what it was like for my grandmother to get dressed in the morning. It was a shocking experience. It took about 20 minutes, and she was crying and screaming from the amount of pain from just having to reach her arm back into her sleeve or lift up to have her pants pulled up. And I remember calling the nurse afterwards, who was kind, she was gentle, she was patient. But the clothes just weren't designed for someone who was living with my grandmother's ability at the time. And nurse said, yeah, this happens every single time your grandmother gets dressed, and she's about average for what it's like to live in a memory care community. I went online and found a couple clothing brands that promised to make dressing less painful. I ordered their items and sent them to my grandmother. When she received them, she refused to try anything on because she said the clothes were too ugly. That was the genesis of Joe and Bella. Our goal is to make dressing faster, easier, more dignified, but do so in a way that doesn't sacrifice the way in which the clothes look or make someone feel about themselves.
So, the name of the company, Joe Bella, where did that come from?
Yes, it dates back to 2012. My grandfather at that point, who was living with Parkinsonia dementia, they were still living at home, but they were falling, and it was no longer safe for them to live at home anymore. One of these days they fell, and the fire department came out again despite having 24/7 in-home care. They said, hey, it's no longer safe for them to be living here with care. The next day we had to move them into a care community. That was Christmas Eve of 20. We spent that day setting up the room, getting internet hooked up, getting the TV set up, making sure things were on the walls, making sure everything was the way it was supposed to be. By the time we finished unpacking, finished the move, it was late at night. We were exhausted. There was a skeleton crew left at the care community. And we finally started getting a tour. As we're getting a tour of the facility, two residents jump in line and slowly start taking over the tour. That was Joe and Bella. They ended up becoming a huge part of our life. They had every single meal with my grandfather until the day he passed. They would come over for Mother's Day, for Father's Day. They were two widowed Holocaust survivors who had met later in life, despite what they had gone through, had just this unbelievable amount of happiness and joy that they would give to everybody else. And so we named it after them for two reasons. The first was it's a legacy for us to live up to. Every single day I look at my computer, I see their name. And so I know anything less than the best doesn't meet the level of legacy that they left behind. And the second is, when we left the memory care community, we left with this tremendous sense of relief that, oh, thank God Joe and Bella are there. Thank God there's some people for my grandmother who was tough to get along with at certain points, and she loved Joe and Bella. So it was just gratefulness that they existed. When people find Joe and Bella now and are closed for the first time, that's what we want to give back. Because so often we get calls or chats or emails to our company saying, hey, I just found out my dad has Parkinson's, or I'm getting rotator cuff surgery or a hip replacement, or my uncle just had a stroke. What should I do? Or I have this specific type of catheter. And so we want people to know there are options out there. You're not alone. Here's something that can make things a little bit easier as you go through whatever journey you're going through.
I understand this is not your first startup. You started something cool in Chicago.
So that was my first startup that I started. Before that, I was at Grubhub in Chicago, the online food ordering app. Collaborata was meant to be a data aggregator for smaller brands to compete with the giants of Facebook, of Amazon, of Google's of the world who have a monopoly on consumer data. We were bringing multiple organizations together to share the cost of research and data, working with the NBA, Reebok, Nike, Disney, and Ford. But our most important client ended up being ARP. And we were running an annual project with them called Hacking Longevity that looked at the future of aging, caregiving, and longevity within the U.S. amongst 4 different generational cohorts. And it became this massive passion project of ours and the most important work that we were doing. In some ways, it also became this source of deep frustration in the sense that it mattered a lot to ARP. It mattered a lot to large banks. It didn't matter a lot to pretty much anyone else we tried to talk to about it outside of those organizations. Anyone who was developing consumer products or physical products of any type just didn't really care. Go into meetings or conferences and say, hey, the demographics are really simple. 10,000 Americans right now are turning 70 every single day, 2/3 of whom have a chronic health condition. 2/3 of that number have multiple chronic health conditions. Boomers control over 50% of the wealth in this country. So if you're looking at this purely from a economic opportunity, it's very clear that there should be products or services that are coming up right now that are geared toward extending independence or that are geared to make the unique challenges of caregiving easier. But for the most part, brands would rather focus on innovation for younger adults. This really interesting and frustrating bias was occurring that we were going up against. And it really opened our eyes to, man, there's not enough work being done, and we are not moving fast enough as a country when it comes to solutions for aging and longevity.
Right. The Villages being the fastest growing community in America, in 80% 55 or older, really makes a lot of sense. There are a number of living facilities around the Villages, as well as memory care units. Now, what type of clothing have you developed for seniors that have mobility issues or arthritis where their fingers don't work as well?
So far, we have a range of products. We've brought 16 unique adaptive apparel products to the market, each of which serves a different use case and is unique to anything else on the market. Our goal is that there's no stigma to adaptive. I think a lot of times when people hear the word adaptive, they think medical or institutional or something that someone wears because they're different. And I think what's important for what we're doing is, yes, we are designing the product specifically for someone with changing needs and mobility changes and differences. We're designing clothes in a way that they're great for everybody. 40% of our sales for men's button-downs are going to men below the age of 40 because they just want clothes that happens to be a little bit faster and easier to put on.
How are people finding out about your product?
Yeah, they find us online, whether that be through social media, Google, SEO that we do, or we also sell on Amazon currently. So a couple examples would be, I'm wearing one of our shirts right now, which looks like a traditional button-down, but there's some clever tricks to it. We always start with the fit. We do things that's known as dropping the shoulder, and we also enlarge the armhole. So the process of just reaching back into a sleeve is easier. We then look at the cuff. This cuff is lined with elastic, so it stretches really far relative to a normal cuff. The last and most important thing is, yes, it has buttons, but the buttons are just ornamental. They're just for show. And so behind the buttons, we have magnets that are stitched in here that you won't be able to see on the video, but someone can independently with one hand just snap on into place. And so we use tricks like that, whether it be magnets for buttons or magnets for zippers or hidden zippers in places that are designed to empower folks to either dress independently with one hand or just make that process of dressing with a partner caregiver a little bit easier.
So aside from the magnetic buttons, good idea, where would you put hidden zippers there on a pair of pants?
On a pair of pants, we have zippers that go down the side of the pants on both sides that can zip from both the hip down as well as up from the ankle. So if someone has swollen feet or ankles, or maybe they're wearing a cast, or maybe they just had hip surgery, they need access to a colonoscopy bag, a catheter, or a handheld urinal, the zippers give you greater access. And then we dye the zippers to match the color of the pants. If the pant is khaki we'll custom dye the pants a dark khaki color, and we fold over the fabric a little bit as well to hide it in there. And then we have a special pair of pants that we call care zips.
What do you call them
that
again?
has a care zips.
Is it?
Care zips. We have a patent on the pants. We are the only pant or shorts on the market that can use 3 zippers. The zippers go down both sides of the pant, and a third zipper is hidden on the inseam of the pant that wraps from knee to knee on the inseam, which gives full access. It was originally designed for incontinence briefs. So individuals wearing an incontinence brief can have that brief changed quickly, safely, and easily without their pants, socks, and shoes having to come off. It was designed for assisted care because roughly 80% of individuals who develop dementia or Alzheimer's will develop incontinence at some point throughout that aging journey. And this is just something that can allow those folks to change in a more dignified, faster, safer way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's take a short break here into an Alzheimer's tip appropriate for this show from Dr. Craig Curtis.
We now know that Alzheimer's disease starts about 20 years before the symptoms, with the buildup of a toxic protein called amyloid. And so scientists have been on a quest to remove amyloid to see how it affects the disease. The medicine that was recently FDA approved to slow down symptoms in people with Alzheimer's disease memory problems works by removing this substance called amyloid out of the brain. And now we're attempting to use those medicines to actually remove amyloid before someone develops symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, such as memory loss and forgetfulness.
So that's in that 20-year period before the disease is obvious?
That's right. Scientists now call it Alzheimer's pathologic change versus Alzheimer's disease. And we're saving the term Alzheimer's disease for when someone is actually experiencing symptoms due to Alzheimer's disease.
With over 20 years of experience studying brain health, Dr. Curtis's goal is to educate the Villages community on how to live a longer, healthier life. To learn more, visit his website, craigcurtismd.com, or call 352-500-5252 to attend a free seminar.
Thank you, Dr. Curtis. You mentioned shirts, pants. Are there any other clothing items?
We have adaptive socks as well. We have traditional compression socks and gripper socks. For our compression socks, we add grips to the bottom of them so they're not as slippery. So you can walk around without your shoes, without the risk of falling and slipping on wood floors. We've added what we call a grab tab, which is essentially just a tab on the back of the sock to make that process of pulling up your socks a little bit easier. Both our compression and our regular grip socks come in wider sizes than traditional socks.
Pants and shirts. What other products are in the line?
We have a full range of products from socks to hoodies to other tops. So our compression socks come with silicone grips on the bottom to help prevent falls and slips on the soles of the feet. They also have a grab tab, which is a tab on the back of the sock that's easy to grab on to make pulling up socks a lot easier. We noticed early on that searches on Google and Amazon on a daily basis for easier to put on socks were something like 10,000 searches a day combined. And so we knew it was a big problem. We've got our first solution out there, and we've got a few other ideas in the works. We also have hoodies and men's cardigans and zip-ups that use magnetic closing zippers in the front. It looks like a traditional zipper. You can't tell anything that is different about it. But the latch itself, when it gets close enough, just clicks into place by itself. And then we use a big finger loop so someone can stick one finger in and zip up a hoodie or zip up of any type. And so later this year, we'll probably work to come out with some outerwear using that same adaptive technology.
Things like coats. Right in Chicago.
Let's take a quick break.
Have you heard about Mature Adults with Donna Hoover and Mike Roth? Yes, this is my second podcast, and Donna and I are going to be addressing subjects which are significant for seniors, especially seniors living here in the Villages. The easiest way to hear the show is to look it up on Apple Podcasts. Look for Mature Adults with Donna and Mike. We'll be looking for you there. You can also find us on Mature Adults with Donna and Mike, all spelled out, @buzzsprout.com.
Yeah, it is cold here. We unfortunately do not get the same weather as the villages.
Now, what is the hoodies product that you have?
So that is our newest product, our magnetic zipper hoodie that uses this magnetic zipping technology, but it goes a bit further. So we have specialized pockets. So the pockets are extra deep and they're actually angled specific for seating. If someone is seated most of the day or if they're a wheelchair user, they're angled for that body position as opposed to a traditional hoodie. We adjusted the fit for an older body by doing things like dropping the shoulder, enlarging the armhole, having the back of the hoodie fall longer behind it. And we're coming out with winter weights later this year, hopefully by Q4.
What'd you call it?
Winter weight. It's a mid-weight hoodie.
So the fabric.
Yeah, it's probably a weight that would be perfect for the villages. By Q4, once it's cold again in Chicago, we'll have a
probably
heavier
will be
version
cold
coming
here in the
out.
villages for the last few days,
Oh, goodness.
but no snow. How do you test and validate each new product?
It is a long process. We track both quantitative data and do qualitative analysis to start. The first part is, as I mentioned with the socks, we scrape data from Google and Amazon's Search Console as well as Amazon third-party data providers to see what are folks searching for that they need that might not yet exist. Are they looking for easier shirts or easier pants or access for certain types of medical products? Once we analyze that data and see what products on the market are missing that we think we have an opportunity to win at, we put together a few initial product ideas. We take these product ideas to 3 individual groups that we've put together, our consumer panels. The first group includes older adults who live independently, but perhaps living with some sort of physical disability that makes it harder for them to dress independently, and they could use a little bit of help. So maybe it's an individual who has Parkinson's, or someone who has arthritis, or someone who recently had knee surgery. So we're talking to that group first. Then the second group are individuals that...
Jimmy, would that group include people who've had rotator cuff surgery or shoulder replacement?
Exactly.
See a lot of
Shoulder
that here in the
replacement,
villages.
hip replacement. Folks who still are as active as they can possibly be. They want to recover, but that recovery process is hard. Clothing shouldn't be. That second group of people we talk to are individuals who are helping a loved one get dressed at home. Typically a spouse, or in some case, the daughter or the son who is caring for a parent living at home. And maybe that individual doesn't have the physical or cognitive ability to dress independently, and they need the support of a family member to do that safely at home.
Sure.
The third group we speak to are professional caregivers in a care setting, nurses at care communities, whether it be assisted living, skilled nursing, or memory care. And we will present our initial ideas to these 3 groups of people. They'll say, hey, this is why this will or will not work.
Mm-hmm.
We go back to the drawing board a few times, and once we think we have a solution that will work for each one of those individual groups of people, we go and make our prototype.
How many prototypes?
And we'll make a few. Sometimes we do well and only have to go through 5 or 6 rounds of prototypes until we feel good about it.
When you make a prototype, do you make 50 test pieces, 20 test pieces?
Typically, the first round, we'll make 3 test pieces. And the way we do it is we'll make them in 3 different sizes. So we'll normally do like a medium, a large, and extra large.
Mm-hmm.
And often one of those will essentially say half of the product is version A and half the product is version B. So maybe we'll try some things on one side of the product that we won't try on the other. So we can really see what works and what doesn't. And we'll bring those products here, we'll test them, get them in the hands of these groups, and then go back to the drawing board. And it's about refining and saying, oh, we thought these buttons were going to be strong enough, they're not strong enough. Or we thought this fabric was going to be really soft and stretchy. Maybe it's soft, but it's not soft after we wash it 30 times. It's just a matter of going until we get to the point where like, okay, this will hold up from a wash. This feels good all day. Maybe it's stain resistant. Maybe it's antimicrobial. The right weight of the fabric works with the weight of the zipper. And eventually we get to a point where we check off all the boxes that we need to bring that product to market.
Now, you these prototypes?
We build the prototypes in America, then we do our full manufacturing in China.
Do you have in China?
We used to have a representative in China. We ended the relationship with the agent in China. That's a role that's now gone to someone local here in Chicago who has manufacturing experience, who has been handling those relationships with us, and will travel there a couple times throughout the year.
You stock product in America?
All of it is stocked here in America. We're actually stocked in Virginia. Now we recently moved. We used to be in a couple different warehouses, but we're now fully stocked in Virginia. But everything is designed here in Texas, tested and Texas, in Iowa, in Florida, in Chicago, and elsewhere in the U.S., and then Stockton, Virginia.
Yeah, I would imagine that in the warmer climates like Florida, where we're wearing shorts 8-9 months a year, maybe 10 months a year. In Chicago, where long pants were common year round. What is the best-selling product that you have? What piece of apparel?
It changes season to season.
Mhm.
This winter, our number one selling product was a version of our men's button-down. That warmer button-down in a flannel was by far our best-selling product this winter. I have a feeling this summer it will be the exact opposite. We have a short-sleeve version of our button-down that does great. We're coming out with some really fun prints and patterns for this summer, which I'm sure will be our best-selling product. It depends on the season.
Like
and
t-shirt?
depends on T-shirt, but with buttons up the front, make it easier to put on.
Okay, buttons up
So
the front.
someone who has limited mobility, who can't lift their arms up or have the ability to put something on over their head is the idea.
Let's talk
with our
about your
shirts.
pants. These are the ones with 3 zippers. Is the waistband stretchy?
It is, and that's key. So all of our waistbands for our pants are lined with elastic, and they can stretch. If you're traditionally a medium, they can stretch to about the size of an extra large, which is by design. There's several reasons for this. Number one is comfort. I pretty much only wear pants now that have an elastic waist, unless I have to look a little bit nicer and put jeans on. The most important thing is having that comfort. The second is that we know there are meaningful body changes that happen as we transition. If someone's moving into a memory care community for the first time, they might put on a lot of weight or lose a lot of weight when they move on into that care community. They might like the food a lot. They might hate the food. They might be on a new medicine. They might be moving there because they just had a fall and they're not going to be as active. We know the individuals we're trying to serve have changing body types. Making sure the pants adjust for that is key.
Are your pants sized by waist? That
So right now our pants are size small to 3XL. We probably will be moving to a more traditional sizing system by the end of the year. We're trying to test out sizing right now.
the
to
length
get
of the
it.
legs.
So
Usually
they do
what I
come
buy,
in seam.
I'm buying a 38 waist, 29 length, and aggravation is it? Well, the manufacturers longer are selling 29-inch inseams. They're selling 28s or 30s.
So right now they do come in 2 different inseam lengths. The goal is as we grow and as we're able to help and serve more people that we're going to be able to add more inseam lengths.
What is the
and be able
spectrum?
to serve more people.
The shirt that you have on is a nice gray. Solid colors do you have?
So for our button downs, they come in our traditional color. They come in the gray. They come in a nice blue as well as a solid white. And then we have a few patterns. So we have a plaid navy check, a plaid white, a plaid green. And then they come in 4 different colors for our flannels and 4 different colors for our short sleeve. So our short sleeve comes in a solid navy and a solid white, as well as a blue tile is what we call it, which is like a nice printed blue color. And the last one is a stripe print we have coming out.
Yeah. You said the material. What about the shirts? Are they stretchy as well?
So our cuffs, we have the elastic lined in here, and we also add a little bit in the shoulder as well to allow that to stretch. These shirts do have what's known as 4-way stretch on top of them, which is by design so that it can help fit multiple body types, but also make sure you're comfortable throughout the day. And they come in 2 different fits as well for a shirt. So we have what's known as our more tailored fit, that more traditional look if someone wanted to wear a suit or like a business use. And then what I'm wearing today is what we call our relaxed fit, which is more a comfortable, looser fit relative to our tailored fit.
Now, I have the company in offering.
This is our 3rd year selling our own products right now. So we're still very new. It's been quite a journey to get our different products to market.
What advice would you give to yourself 3 years ago based on what you know today?
We should narrow our scope. We launched some products in the first 18 months of the business that we no longer carry. And I think we are perhaps overly ambitious to the aggressiveness of releasing new products. We would have been better served focusing on our button downs, focusing just on our pants, and coming out with multiple colors of those as opposed to a wider variety of products. Now, I think we're in a different spot where We've figured out a lot of things from the marketing side, figured out more from the product side, and have a more efficient time rolling out new products. But early on, I think we were a little bit too aggressive.
How large is your company?
So we have 3 of us full time. I have someone from a marketing standpoint, and my first hire was a former memory care nurse who
Really?
was in charge of answering our phones. People would call in and say, hey, I'm wearing this sort of catheter, or I have this sort of colonoscopy bag. Will your pants work with it? And to me, it felt necessary to have somebody on our team who was able to answer those questions, who had really lived that experience. But then we have a full apparel design team. We have a fractional accountant, a fractional financial person, a fractional operating person. We have a marketing agency, a third-party warehouse that we work with as well.
So if I order your product through Amazon, would it come from you, or is it stored in the app?
It depends. About 70% of our products are stored at an Amazon warehouse. All of our products are available on Amazon, but the ones that aren't our bestsellers, we ship from our own warehouse. But if you have Prime, you're able to get most of our products same day, next day through Amazon.
So if someone was looking to see your catalog of products or website, would they?
You should go to joeandbella.com, JOEAND, B as in Bella, BELLA.com. You can search for us on Amazon under the same name or across any of the different social media platforms as well.
And if someone wanted to email in a question, what email address should they use?
My email is Jimmy, JIMMY, @joeandbella.com.
Great. Questions that I failed to ask you today, Jimmy, that you wanted to answer for our listeners?
I don't believe so, but if anyone has any questions, we're available. Please feel free to reach out. We appreciate the opportunity to share what we're building here. And thank you for having me today, Mike.
Thanks for being on Open Forum in the Villages. Jimmy.
Remember, our next episode will be released next Friday at 9 a.m. Should you want to become a major supporter of the show or have questions, please contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. This is a shout out for supporters Tweet Coleman, Ed Williams, Duane Romick, Paul Sorgan, and Dr. Craig Curtis at K2 in the Villages. We will be hearing more from Dr. Curtis with short Alzheimer's tips each week. If you know someone who should be on the show, contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. The way our show grows is with your help. Text your friends about this show if you enjoyed listening, or just tell your friends about the show. We thank everyone for listening. The content of the show is copyrighted by Roth Voice 2026, all rights reserved.